And can you tell us the story from when it was first conceived, when you were in the workshop with David Tudor?
Performances David did. So, of course, the predecessor before we got involved was the performances from the Cunningham Company. We were college students, post-college students, and so the summer workshop, John and I and almost everybody else there, were very much attracted by the people who were giving these seminars. Of course, the main attraction for us was we had met David Tudor in performances at universities and various settings. When he found out that he was giving this workshop, we absolutely had to go. So that was and we get to this little set of cottages in New Hampshire, and most of us had been in these small communities. I was in upstate New York, where there was like 3 or 5 people interested in sound and electronic music and new music. And here was 50, 60 people, all interested and all kind of striving for this. So we walk into David's workshop, and here he has these little devices that are chirping. And I guess you can do the garden sprinkler story with this one.
Because
I'll do the apple barrel.
I was doing sculpture before this, and I was looking for a way to use sound with sculpture. So I walked up to this. It was in this old farmhouse, and in the back room, and it was very dark. And I walk into this room, and I just hear this. And I didn't know what it was. And it was, if you look in the exhibition here, we have these 2 little garden sprinklers, for watering your lawn. And David had one of these suspended with a little frog going through it as the sound. And the minute I saw that, I went, now this is exactly what makes sense to me. Here is sculpture, and here is the sound together. And then that started almost 15 years that I spent working with David, traveling and doing works.
Now you have to realize that the little workshop was in the top of the farmhouse, where it was about 105 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So we sort of sweltered during the day, and then at night sort of crawled out to the barn and sort of hanging our objects. So I remember the thing that I picked. Dave never told us to pick small things. He wasn't really good at
Didn't like to talk.
he was a man of few words, and you had to listen very carefully to what he didn't say. So one of the things he didn't say was what the size of the objects were, which is maybe why we didn't tell Abraham the size of the objects to take. So he didn't tell us that he had mostly been working with small things. And I think I came back with about a 60-gallon apple cider barrel, right, that stank. It had old cider in it, I think, so it was very fragrant. And I would sit there for hours trying to get this thing to make sounds. And the amazing thing, so the basic process, of course, you take these transducers and connect it to the object, and you take a signal source and drive to the object. And to be scientific about it, I took a sine wave and I put it into the cider barrel, and a sine wave comes out. And I would do this night after, until you realize that it's really the change in the signals that really get the characteristic. That you have to, that it's not just the resonance, but how you play with the resonances of the objects. So if you look at the old pictures, this is a big old cider barrel, which hardly made any sound, which is how I got my start. But I also found styrofoam, and the styrofoam saved me, which makes a lot of sound with very little energy.